Of all the mysteries in Blue Lock, the one I'm most excited for is the history between Noel Noah and Ego Jinpachi. Throughout the series, we've been getting glimpses into both characters, and with the NEL concluding, we've gotten more information about their potential past to reconceptualize a new theory into what happened and why I believe a past to Noah was the thing that killed Ego's soccer career. This theory will also include some other predictions, including Snuffy's past relationship with the duo and how they were the starting point for Mick's unfortunate fate, and also why Ego is so critical in Nagi specifically. But before jumping into the video, I do want to say please do like and subscribe, as it does help, and I do actually intend to post a bit more frequently from now on. The first thing I want to talk about is the portrayals of both characters in the manga. Noah is unanimously regarded to be as the world's best striker by basically every character, and so is easily recognizable in their world. On the contrary, Ego Jinpachi is a nobody, where we know coming into Blue Lock that none of the students seem to know who exactly he is, which is weird given that he was supposed to be the first rival of Noah. This tells us there's a good chance their rivalry existed before the Blue Lockers started watching Noah in his triumphant era, and made a name for himself, because as we know, Ego was Noah's first rival. This tells us that their rivalry ended in a short time frame as Ego's presence disappeared before gaining notoriety. Since Noah is 31 and Ego is 30, they are in the same age bracket, and we also have Iski who is 16, Henri 22, Luna 27 and Snuffy 37. I bring this up simply to talk about the potential timeline of the duo's relationship. In the light novel, we learn a bit about Iski's history regarding Noah. Iski was 4 years old when he began his soccer journey, as he was inspired by the game he watched, but the most important fact is when he was 8 years old he witnessed Noah score a goal. Judging by the interview, he was already successful, although he was not the best striker in the world and had not won the World Cup yet. We also know that since that point, Iski studied his movements and watched all his games, meaning that if Ego was on Noah's team, then realistically Iski or anyone from Blue Lock should know who Ego actually was. That is, unless he already vanished from the world. So I'll assume that Noah and Ego's past relationship concluded before Iski was 8, which would give their relationship ranging potentially between when they were 16 to 22. But we also know that Noah said their rivalry happened over 10 years ago, meaning there's a good chance they were teammates before they were 20. As for Henri, she likely knew about Ego's past with Noah because she was a teenager and actually watched their games. And since she was always deeply passionate about Japanese soccer, then it makes sense that she remembers a top tier or rising Japanese player who went overseas before ending their career. On the other side of the age bracket, we have Snuffy at 37, who knew about their rivalry as he compares them to Iski and Baro. I'm also guessing that given Snuffy's age, he was the best striker in the world alongside Mick Moon before Noah eventually stole that spot, and when we see Snuffy mention rising strikers, he's referring to Noah specifically, which I'll elaborate in my theory later. Another thing I want to mention is when Ego describes players going overseas, we see him say they may struggle and return 2 to 3 years later, which is what I think actually happened to him before his career ended. He got dropped from the team for underperforming and went to a Japanese club in his final years before his career completely died. Given all this, I think a rough timeline looks something like this. So now is the exciting part of my theory, and this is the exact relationship between the two and what exactly happened in their past. For the most part, I believe Blue Lock was made to create the world's best striker through Ego's personal experience. He understands so many concepts, whether it's hammering into the idea of turning a 0 into a 1, forming chemical reactions, the concept of flow, his understanding of luck, the feeling of despair, the notion of protagonist, and even the different ego types. When it comes to the human psychology, Ego is the person who has the best grasp in the concept of ego and the main reason why he could compete with Noah in the first place. So anytime a key point is made from Ego when he's explaining something, I interpret it as something he's learned from previous experience, where Blue Lock is used to accelerate their developments at a rapid rate to actually compete with the world from his previous knowledge. But his knowledge is also limited as he never reached the level Noah is currently, which is why I believe there'll be a point where he can't teach the Blue Lockers anymore. Specifically, I'm talking about Nagi and how Ego believes he can't reignite his fire and it's over for him. Ego himself failed and could not bounce back, and whether he is testing Nagi or actually believes he failed, it doesn't matter. Ego can't help Nagi because Ego himself couldn't escape the slump like Nagi's going through, and I'll talk about this in more details later. Even if I mentioned before that he may have underperformed overseas, we need to acknowledge that he must have been good enough to get an offer overseas to begin with, and formidable enough to even be considered Noah's first rival. I'm going to ignore a lot of Ego's past before going overseas, and just interpret that he knew stuff regarding Ego and Flow before going, or is at a similar level of Sendo and Kira. And then just like how Iski and potentially Sai learn new stuff, including how talented learners challenge geniuses, originality, etc., Ego himself learns this stuff while he was overseas. We also know that Noah is from the slums from his small backstory. And to me, I don't think Noah was instantly an S tier player yet, but will become one after his journey with Ego. I'm guessing when Ego and Noah were approximately 18, they both got picked up from the same club overseas, where I think they were on a bottom tier club, as those at the bottom have more hunger than those at the top, so it makes sense they start from the scraps and climb their way up. So let's talk about my actual theory, and that is Ego Jinpachi passed the game winning goal to Noah, and by doing so, both started his soccer career but also killed it. But to understand why I came to this conclusion, we have to go all the way to the beginning of the story. From the first chapter, one of the most highlighted moments is the fact Iski passes the ball to his teammate Tada, who failed to score. It's a key moment in the series because it shows the idea that Iski isn't acting like an egoist yet. Instead, he follows the coach's advice and leans into the teamwork philosophy, the same one that plagues Japan from evolving to the next level. Ego believes soccer is a sport where you score more than your opponent, and whoever scores the most is the best, as he even brings up Noel's belief that he would rather lose with a hat-trick than win with an assist. As the chapter continues, we see Ego bring up the scenario. In the World Cup and the final play, what would you do? But unlike before, Iski knows he won't make that mistake again, and that as an egoist he would shoot without hesitation. This is Iski's calling card as he takes the lead and begins his journey to become number 1. An important note is in Iski's light novel. Henri initially wrote him off from the program as he didn't fit the criteria that Ego was after, but after rewatching the footage, Ego decides he's actually qualified for the program as he sees something in him. So maybe in the match before passing to Tada, he saw him hesitate, which made him see Iski's ego aside, or maybe he was just impressed with his other intangibilities he brought to the team. There's something Iski has that impressed Ego enough to be picked up. I also do want to highlight, Blue Lock was not made for Iski specifically, it was designed for the ultimate egoist who so happened to be him. So what's so significant about the past in chapter 1? Well, besides likely being foreshadowing for the final goal in the series, we have to consider that it's used in a way to depict a person's ego and development in the story. Once we get to the games in Blue Lock, we have the Team X vs Team Z game, with Baro obviously dominating and showing a level far greater than Iski can comprehend. We come to a similar scenario, but instead of the goalkeeper we have Baro. Overwhelmed, he goes right back to his old self as he gets ready to pass to either Raichi or Kunigami, and even though Raichi was free, he trusted the hero to score the final goal. Then right after we have Baro call him a failure as a striker because he goes against the true egoist mentality that Ego actually wanted. But this isn't a one-time thing. Once again when Iski enters a completely new environment in the NEL, what do you think happened in the first game? He struggles as soon as he is subbed on, and with a single chance left and to bring hope to the other Blue Lockers, he once again passes to the hero Kunigami as he trusts his left foot shot even if Kaiser was free to score. But by doing so, we have Iski's ego's mentality challenged once again through Yukimiya's confrontation. In both scenarios, he chose to pass the teammates just to increase his chance of surviving, and in both instances, he actually developed. Even if passing is portrayed as a bad thing and not an egotistical method, it's still okay to do, which is Iski's argument against Yukimiya. Every player has limits on their top performance, which Ego has discussed before, so even if they don't want a pass, it's sometimes needed. Just like how Iski followed Japan's rigid mentality, I believe Ego also followed it before. Both are similar and extreme egoists, and I think their journeys are fairly similar. So coming overseas, he was still passing to teammates and not playing to his full potential because he hasn't followed his true ego yet. So in their first match, I'm expecting both Ego and Noah to perform poorly, and as they're about to lose, Ego passes to Noah who scores, and doing so, Noah turns the 0 to 1 for their team. Right after the match, I expect Noah to approach Ego and tell him how he's a failure as a striker, or at least question his ego, as Noah is only interested in those seeking to exceed him. His words may be harsh, but I think this is necessary for Ego to realize he has to change and awaken. With Snuffy's acknowledgement in the NEL, we also know that the relationship between Izzy and Baru has similarity between that of Ego and Noah respectively, so in that case we can interpret Izzy as a character similar to Ego, and then for Noah it's Baru. As we know, Baru was far better than Izzy in their first match, but after a while we have Baru experience the first time in his life where he didn't feel like a king and was getting controlled by Izzy. He was the trigger to Baru's first awakening before scoring the game-winning goal, and from then their rivalry finally formed. When it comes to Noah, we know that his true ego is to become stronger. He will use, manipulate, face stronger foes, etc. It does not matter what it is as long as it helps him get even stronger. This is the key thing that Snuffy sees when he describes their rivalry. Ego will be a player who will consistently evolve and adapt to a higher level than Noah, which feeds him and helps him evolve. That's the core of their rivalry. When you see Baru and Izzy's relationship, it's exactly like this too. When Baru first felt true despair, we have Izzy be the trigger to his evolution, and since that point it's not a one-sided rivalry, but a rivalry where they try to exceed each other. We saw it in the third selection, as Baru acknowledged how good Izzy was, in the U20 match when they both scored, and even in the NEL consistently as they continuously clash. The duo have a healthy relationship of devouring each other and getting stronger. Even in one of the latest chapters we have Baru sit there happy for Izzy finally reaching rank 1 because he himself has no plans of stopping now and still aims to surpass him. So if Ego and Noah's relationship have a similar journey, we have Ego likely being a worse player, but finds after a few games a way to overcome and adapt to exceed the genius Noah, likely in a way that relates to the dynamic between a talented learner and a genius, where he adapts and also discovers Noah's talents. By feeling a challenge, Noah finally feels the trigger to his awakening, and Ego is who strives to overtake him and goes further beyond him. It's as Ego said, success never comes to those drunk on their own stories. They come from the intersection of dreams, where Ego's dreams to be the world's best striker, while Noah is to be the strongest. So just like Izzy's and Baru's rotten relationship, this is a cyclic devourer, when Ego surpasses Noah, he evolves, and when Noah evolves, Ego adapts to exceed him. And this keeps happening every game, and they're core to their rivalry. As they continually devour each other, they take over the team, and we have them actually develop to more than just rivals and become actual friends, where I'm predicting that their friendship originates from them sharing some ramen. From the character profiles, we now know that Noah's favourite food is Japanese ramen, as he was introduced to it from Ego, and it's the same thing Ego eats throughout the manga. So where Izzy bonds with Kunigami and Baru through a meal, we likely have Ego and Noah share some ramen together. I also want to mention, Noah hates when people eat food loudly, which is something Ego does, but also Ego mentions earlier in the manga that it's his reaction to his time before retiring, as it's something he shouldn't have been eating. So by sharing the food they shouldn't be eating means that Noah may have broken his strict rationale mentality as he shares ramen with Ego. I truly believe these two have a deep meaningful relationship that stems back to their early days. Besides their rivalry dynamic being similar to that of Izzy and Baru, I want to talk about the reason why I think he originally passed to Noah, and it's mainly because of Kunigami. Given a second chance at life through the wildcard experiment, we see he was molded and built to become the next Noah, at least physically. With stats approaching him and copying his ambidextrous abilities, he threw away his passionate hero Ego in favour of his current emotionless cyborg persona, which is the same nickname given to Noah. Coming overseas, we may see Ego originally struggle, and so just like how Izzy struggled in new environments and passed the Kunigami twice, I bet you that Ego also struggled when he first arrived, and what do struggling people do if they can't survive? Well, they pass as they hide behind their current weaknesses. Ego is an egoist who is willing to sacrifice 299 people just for the sake of the best egoist. He aspires to see someone exceed himself in contest with Noah. That is why when Kunigami is brought back to life, he tries to replicate him. It's not just for him to be added into the story as a cop-out for his elimination, but meant to show a young Noah reflected on the vessel known as Kunigami. And so his purpose in Blue Lock is to set a bench test for the Blue Lockers to exceed, and being the hottest place on Earth and the place where evolutions happen at rapid speed, then they can evolve to challenge a future Noah. And whether it be passing just to survive or just devouring each other, any victory in general will help them reach the number 1 spot. So knowing how his journey in rivalry started with Noah, I want to talk about the moment that actually killed Ego Jinpachi's career. If you remember the timeline earlier, the general gist is that he was roughly 18 when he went overseas and fell off the planet by the time Itsuki could know of his existence. So while they are devouring each other, I think that Noah will still be regarded as a better striker, but they are fairly equal. But after a year or two as teammates, we see the game that will change the world. Before Noah was noted as the best player in the world, there must be someone else, and who better than Snuffy the Crown Jewel. He is 37 and from the previous generation, and was stated to bring victory to every team he was in, and is still highly regarded now. Snuffy is seen as untouchable at this point in time, and with his teammate Mick, I believe they were an unstoppable duo as they were regarded as the best duo in the world. So in their second year, I believe that Ego and Noah did the impossible. They did what no team had done before that year, and that is defeat Snuffy's team. With Ego's revolutionary tactics and Noel's individual abilities, they tied the game to the last minute, and victory came down to Ego as he is forced into a position where he could be an egoist and try to score for himself or pass to Noah to guarantee victory, and this was the moment I believe that killed Ego's career, as I believe he didn't do what he preached to the Blue Lockers, and that is decide to pass to Noah instead of acting like an egoist. With Noah winning the game-winning goal, I think the whole world is looking at him as the rising star by making a name for himself as he defeated Snuffy's team. In doing so, Ego was left into the darkness as Noah is the primary focus by fans. This is also the same game I think that broke Mick and led to his despair. He met a rising star so good that his skill level wasn't enough, and we know his future's fate. I wouldn't be shocked if Mick and Snuffy started slacking at this point too, making it believable these rising stars in some low tier team could defeat them out of nowhere. It's as Mick said, the ones who breathe new life in the world aren't adults doing the right thing. Inventions, revolutions, any kind of innovation begins with nonsense spouted by shitty brats, where Ego and Noah were able to revolutionize and find a way to defeat them. And while I'm talking about Mick, I do want to say I don't think Noah was the sole reason he took his own life. Instead, I briefly want to talk about my future theory, and that is the main contributor to his actual death, Leonardo Luna. Given they both have names relating to the moon, and Luna's ego relates to twisting people's hearts, I have a strong suspicion that Luna's final words are what led to Mick's death, and by doing so, Luna discovered his joy in twisting hearts of others, to the point I think there's a good chance he tried to break Sai the same way and will try to make Kaiser his next victim. But this is all for another video I'm writing at the moment, so do subscribe if you're interested in that theory later on. But jumping back to the primary focus in the video, even though Noah is amazing and everyone praises him, he is not able to beat Snuffy himself, and I truly believe that Ego was equal to Noah coming into this match, where Ego handled all the tactical plays, maneuvers, etc., basically everything Itsuki did in the NEL. He is a talented learner, and so he already exceeded the wall and knew how to fight amongst geniuses, and had revolutionary tactics to rival Snuffy, which is why Ego is memorable despite being a nobody now. So I think during the Uber's game, when Noah states he doesn't know how to beat Snuffy's plans, it's not that Noah's dumb, but Snuffy is so smart and great at adapting that no matter how good a genius is, he can overcome them. But with Ego, he can inject his ideas and challenge Snuffy's tactics and plans. With all the fame and glory by beating Snuffy, I'm betting that Noah got a good offer from a top tier club, while Ego on the other hand sticks with their club before or doesn't get an offer as good. Stuck on a lukewarm team without a genius like Noah, his intellect and adaptability takes a nosedive as they split up the following year, as Ego can't immerse himself in a challenge without Noah. And so the question is, how fast will Ego's skills deteriorate? I'm a firm believer that they were not codependent in the sense Ego needed Noah to get stronger. Instead, I'm 99% sure the true reason Ego failed was revealed to us a few chapters ago and can be explained with one word: satisfaction. The pure anger on his face tells a lot, and I'm confident he is self-projecting on Nagi, where he felt this satisfaction before, and that is what also killed his career. But if being satisfied is the root cause, then the next question is what led to that feeling, and I think there's two options, where the first one relates to what I just mentioned, where he defeated Snuffy, the previous world's best striker. By beating the best, he got a big head and is satisfied as he believed he was the best in the world. On the other hand, we have Noah, who can never be satisfied, as the main reason he ended up as the best striker in the world is because he wants to continuously get stronger and stronger. There is no point where his hunger can ever be satisfied. The second option, which I think is less likely but still has a chance, is similar to Nagi and Izuki's relationship in the NEL, where in the next match against each other we have Ego outperform Noah, probably by scoring a fluke goal, once again being satisfied believing that he is the best striker in the world. Either way, I think that both options lead to the next big moment between the two strikers. During the Year of his Doom, we will have Ego struggle as he can't maximize his use, as he doesn't have an egoist like Noah on his team anymore, and he is performing poorly because he was satisfied and his talents withered away, similar to Nagi towards the end of the NEL. Eventually, we will have the match between the two rivals who used to be equal. And as we enter the game, I'm expecting a stomp with Noah and his team completely overwhelming him. While Ego was struggling on his team, Noah's own team were better and could facilitate his talents to a higher level. And before Noah scores the final goal in the final second, we have Ego just give up, and just like how Kira gave up, we have Ego just stop and realize he can't compete anymore. It's as he said, anyone who can't survive the battlefield lacks to be a striker. And so by being satisfied and losing his fire previously, Ego comes to realize his talents were dead, and this is why he is critical of Nagi, and believes he can never reignite because he himself could never do it. With a horrific loss, we have Noah disappointed in him, as he can no longer be a person that can trigger evolutions and help him get stronger. With a horrible year on a bad team, he gets no offers besides some mid-level Japanese teams, and maybe after a year or two later, his career completely withers away. It's as Noah said coming into the final game, no one remembers second place. This is one of my favourite panels because it shows the absolute importance of winning for the players, but what's even better is at the moment right after he says this, we have Ego walk in, someone no one remembers, and it's so beautifully shown. Noah yearns to get stronger and stronger, and even if he is the best at the moment, he doesn't care because he wants to continue to grow. It's why Kaisa envisions Izuki and Noah, he isn't sitting down, he is also continuously trying to climb even further. But now Ego, who was once competing for the title, has his back faced away from the chair, he's no longer in contention and the dream is impossible. With the Blue Lock program, Izuki feels this heat and desire to crush Noah, potentially the same thing that triggered Ego when they started, and satisfied with his progress, Noah believes Izuki, who shares the same mindset, could challenge him and make him even stronger. But it's not just Izuki he has to worry about, as Charles also evolved, who will help Loki down the road, and even Kaiser developed because of Izuki. With Ego's plan, Noah can finally feel a challenge to get fired up and evolve once again, because even now there's no one who can threaten him, as the gap between 1 and 2 has never been wider. And so the overall timeline I'm expecting is something like this, where Snuffy is the world's best striker, with Ego and Noah joining the same bottom tier club. To not get benched, we have Ego pass to Noah, and doing so their careers continue. Ego goes on to discover the talented learner wall and a way to overcome it, and exceeds Noah. They continue to evolve by devouring each other and bond over ramen, and eventually they challenge a slumping Snuffy and Mick, where they go on to win, with Ego passing to Noah once again. As they split up, Noah continuously got stronger, while Ego degraded due to being satisfied by defeating Snuffy. Ego returns to a mid-level team, where his career ends, while Noah continues to climb for almost a decade, to the point every kid like Izuki admires him. Finally, Noah wins the World Cup in 2018, right before Blue Lock starts. With this project, he can teach his experiences, where he hopes the players in Blue Lock can adjust and evolve to a level higher than what he reached, and instead of dreaming of being the world's best striker, he changed his dream to create someone who can defeat Noah and reach that level that he could not. With that being said, thanks for watching, let me know your predictions, and as always, Buddha be praised and have a good day.